Hola estudiantes, ¿cómo están? Hoy vamos a hablar del tema 8.2. We are going to get started today with our topic 8.2. We have discussed already topic 8.1 and we are talking about the stem changing verbs, and this time we are going to be working with 8.2. So let me go and get started with that topic, and this is going to be working, we are going to be working with double object pronouns. So we have discussed before objeto directo, objeto indirecto, and now we are going to get started using both of them in a sentence. This is something that we do in English. We also do that in Spanish, and we do have to adjust the way that we talk, the way that we speak, because we start replacing those pronouns. We start replacing the direct object and the indirect object with the corresponding pronouns. So for example, let's go back a little bit and let me recap on what is objeto directo y objeto indirecto. Okay, so objeto directo is the one that refers directly to the action that I am performing or somebody is performing, right? So, for example, let's say that I am buying shoes, or that I am eating a salad, or that my sister is buying a car, right? So what am I eating? I am eating a salad. What am I buying? I am buying shoes, and my sister is buying a car. What is she buying? She's buying a car. That item is directly related to the item, okay? So what am I buying? What am I eating? What is she buying, right? So it will answer to the question what. Now we are going to talk about objeto indirecto. We don't have it all the time, but when we do, it is going to be characterized by being the recipient of the result of the action, not really the recipient of the action. So for example, I'm buying shoes. Um, I'm buying shoes for my baby. I'm not buying my baby. I'm buying my shoes for my baby. So that's why it's not directly related, right? The objeto directo, it is directly related. So what are you buying? What are you, eating? What are you preparing? Versus objeto indirecto, who is going to receive the final product? I'm buying the shoes for my baby. So my baby, it is going to indirectly receive the action of me buying those little shoes, right? So, like I said, we don't have it all the time. Only when we say that we are doing something to give to someone, or somebody is going to receive that product. So, in previous classes, I have mentioned the example of I am baking a cake for my mom's birthday or for my mom. So, I am baking a cake for her, right? She is going to receive the cake. I'm not baking other any other thing but the cake. That's why cake exclusively is objeto directo. My mom will receive the final product of that action, which is the cake, and then she is going to be my objeto indirecto, the person receiving the final product of my actions. So I hope that this is just refreshing the contents that we have discussed before, objeto directo y objeto indirecto. Now, whenever we want to talk, we start replacing, because we do it all the time, right? Whenever I say, let's bring that example again of me baking the cake for my mom. So if I have already established that context of talking about my mom, talking about her birthday, talking about the cake, at some point, instead of saying my mom, I will say her. Instead of saying cake, I'm going to say it, right? So those are going to be pronouns that will help me shorten whatever I'm saying, because I have established the context already. I have established who and what and where and whatever details I am talking about, okay? So let me show you this chart. Whenever we replace with those pronouns, at some point we can use them, both of them together. So just think about the same example. I am baking it for her. In that case, we have already replaced cake with it and my mom with her, okay? So the same thing is going to happen in Spanish. We can replace both of them and in the same sentence. So let's see and let's look at the rules that we have for that situation to happen. Okay, so we have on one side, we have objeto directo, and on the other side, we have objeto indirecto. So just like I said before, objeto directo responds to the question, what? Objeto indirecto responds to the question, to whom or for whom, right? So here we have some examples. Yo horneo una pizza. I'm baking a pizza. Yo la horneo. I'm baking it. Elena compra unos zapatos. Elena los compra. Elena buys them. Okay? So you have to be careful in here just because we do have to make sure that whenever we replace that objeto directo, we have to replace with the pronoun that agrees with that item or with that person or whenever, whatever it is, my objeto directo. So in here, in the first example, I'm baking a pizza. Yo la horneo. Because I'm not talking about me, I'm not talking about te, I'm not baking myself, I'm not baking you, I'm not baking, them. I am baking it. And it is feminine. So it will be la. Where is this la coming from? From here. And we know as well that pronoun will be placed before the conjugated verb, okay? Yo la horneo. Same thing is going to happen all the time. We have to make sure to put that objeto directo in between the subject and most importantly before the conjugated verb, okay? So in here we have Elena compra unos zapatos rojos. How can I replace unos zapatos rojos? Let's look. Then again, it's not me, it's not you, te, it's not lo, it's not la, because zapatos rojos is plural. So it is going to be on this side and it is going to be here. Elena buys them. Elena los compra because we have to put that los in front of the conjugated verb. And it is going to be los because zapatos, it is masculine and it is plural. Okay, so that was just a brief recap of objeto directo. What about my objeto indirecto? Like I mentioned a couple of times already, un objeto indirecto is the one that receives the action of the verb indirectly. Or better said, the way that I like to explain this is that the person receives the final result of the action, okay? So in here, we don't have objeto indirecto over here. We have it here though. Yo horneo una pizza para mis amigos. So I told you as well that one of the hints to find objeto indirecto is the word a or the word para. Both of those express the idea of what in English would be to. To my friends, to my kids, to my baby, for my mom, for my dad, for my brother. Okay? So just pay attention to that. In here we do have para. And over here we have a. So pay attention there because those are my little hints to discover what is my objeto indirecto. Okay? Bien. So for objeto indirecto, I also have some pronouns. based on the person or item that is my objeto indirecto, based on the person that is going to be the recipient. Um, if it's me, I'm going to use me. If it's you, who is the recipient, te. If it's him or her, le. Nos, if we are the recipient, or us, if it's you in the familiar form, or les, if it's you in the plural form, and them in the plural form as well. Okay? I hope that so far we are still, you know, on the same page related to what or how to find objeto directo y objeto indirecto. All right, so now this lesson is called the double object pronoun, remember? So that means that we are going to use the two of them. So just like it says over here, we have already learned the objeto directo y objeto indirecto. If you are still struggling with this, please do not hesitate to let me know. I can direct you to the specific materials for this, or I can help you, refresh that topic as well. Um, so just like we said, we start replacing and using pronouns whenever we have already mentioned the noun that has been that we're talking about. We have already referenced who we're talking about. If I said my friend Carla, at some point it's going to be her, because I already said I'm talking about her. If I'm saying my brother and my sister, just imagine how tiring it would be if you don't have these pronouns to replace. Just imagine I want to talk about my brother and my sister that we went to the beach and we had a great time. Just imagine we don't replace. Then I will be saying something like, my brother and my sister and I went to the beach, and my brother and my sister and I had a great time at the beach, and my brother and my sister and I were surprised how clean the beach is. So imagine that we will have to be, like repeating a lot, right? Bien. So just for putting these items together, the objeto directo y objeto indirecto, we're going to be looking at the pronouns that could be, how can I say, that could be found to make a combination, okay? We're not going to combine the rest of the objeto directo, pronombres de objeto indirecto. We are only going to take these for the matter of this particular lesson that we are going to combine with the pronouns of objeto indirecto. So just keep this in mind. Like I said, objeto de indirecto, it's going to be depending on the recipient, and objeto directo is going to be based on the item we're describing. Now, another thing, I don't know if you already noticed, but objeto indirecto, we are going to be placing it before objeto directo. That is the structure that we have to follow in español, okay? Let's look at the objeto, the pronouns of the indirect object that we have on this side. If I am the recipient, me. If you are the recipient, te. If he, or I mean him, her, or usted are the recipients, we're going to use le. Now, keep an eye on this say over here, and I will explain it in a little bit. Nos, if we are the recipients, us, if you all are the recipient, and les, if them or ustedes are the recipient. Now, keep an eye on that say, like I mentioned, right? Objeto directo. What item allows me to complete my action? I'm buying shoes. If there are no shoes to buy, I cannot buy anything, right? So shoes are complementing my action. That is why it's my objeto directo, related to the verb or to my action directly. In there, we have we have four cases, but we can divide those four into main groups, singular or plural, okay? What am I baking? What am I eating? What am I buying? What is she studying? And so on. This is going, it can be either singular or plural. I am studying historia and math. So I'm studying two things. It would be over this side. I am eating a burger, just one burger. It will be on this side, on the singular, right? These two will replace it. These two will replace them. Lo, it will be for masculine. La is going to be for feminine. Los is going to be for masculine. And las is going to be for feminine plural. So there we have it. Lo will replace something like buying the car, el carro, buying a dog, el perro, and so on. La is going to be for la historia, la geografía. I'm studying it. I'm studying geography, but it is feminine. And the same thing is going to happen with the plural over here. Los perros, los libros, and over here, las gatas, the cats, the female cats, las hermanas, las amigas, and so on. Okay? At this point of the semester, I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty confident that you do remember that we have to establish that, how can I say, that relationship between singular or plural, masculine or feminine. That is very, very important in Spanish. Ok, vamos a la siguiente tabla. We have some examples over here. And just like I mentioned before, whenever we have both of them, they are going to, whenever we use them together, the indirect object pronoun will always precede the direct object pronoun. Okay? So keep an eye on that. That will go in front. And in front, we're going to have objeto indirecto, or any pronoun we need for that. And after, objeto directo. All right? Let's look at this example. La camarera me muestra el menú. La camarera me, to me. She's showing the menu to me, right? Now, it is going to be a little bit odd for if you want to compare this structure to English, but just like I have explained several times, you know, languages are different. And even though sometimes we try to uh, have an approximation of a translation, um, we do not fully we cannot fully translate, or we cannot fully respect the structure, because just languages are different, okay? So it's a different recipe, it's a different structure for saying almost the same thing, just in a different way. Um, so in here, it would say something like, la camarera me lo muestra. La camarera shows it to me. Okay? Nos sirven los platos. Over here, this is my objeto directo. Objeto indirecto, always at the front, always in front of the objeto directo. And then objeto directo over here, second, replacing the item that we are describing in the sentence, right? And then we're going to have it over here. Nos los sirven. They are usually going to go together, and the verb is going to be after that, okay? La camarera me lo muestra. Me, referring to me. Lo, referring to the menu. She is showing it to me. So in there, I recommend you to have these examples, so take notes of those examples, and then you just follow that pattern. I recommend you as well to use, you know, like a different color or highlighters or whatever helps you remember that we are going to use these two together before our verb, okay? Nos los sirven. What are they serving to us? The dishes, which is going to become los. And who is receiving those dishes? We are. And that is replaced with the word nos. Nos los sirven. And finally, we have another example. Maribel te pidió una hamburguesa. Maribel te la pidió. So you can see we have them together. The indirect object first, the direct object second. The most important thing that you have to be able to do is to identify who or what is objeto directo, who and what is objeto indirecto. Remember, objeto indirecto goes first, then objeto directo, then my conjugated verb. And each pronoun that we are going to use will have to be related to that objeto directo or objeto indirecto. Um, Now, there we have a situation. Sometimes, and let me go back to that slide. Sometimes we will have, because it is, random, just a random combination, we will have this with any of these. It can be, me plus any of these, or it can be te plus any of these, based on whatever we want to say. But at some point, we will need to use these two together. As you can see, this starts with L, same as this one, and all of these start with L as well. If we follow the rules that we have learned, we can put these two together, right? Me, lo, or te, la, or nos, los, or os, las, no problem. But whenever we get to these two, we cannot say le, lo, or le, la, or le, los. We cannot say that. And then what happens? Maybe you guessed it at this point. We are going to use se. We're going to convert that to se. Okay? So it is a process, we go step by step, but whenever we want to, whenever we're tempted to do that combination, we have to remember that combination of le, lo, or le, la will not really exist, okay? Or it will sound a little bit odd or out of place. So we're going to kind of forget about these and then use se, all right? That is why we have it here. Now remember, just like I said, we can find them also separately. That's why we don't eliminate these forever, right? Just for the sake of the combination with these. But this still exists because we can find it we can find the situations in which we don't have to combine them, and then it won't be a problem. We will have to use le and les, but just in the case of combination with lo, la, los, or las, then we will have to change to se. Let's look at some examples. You can see over here, we're using las. Over here, we're using lo. We are changing le to se. Over here, we are also changing le to se. All right. Just one last thing, because I think that this topic is a little bit dense, a little bit, like it has a lot of things to consider. So, for example, you can look at some more statements with that combination of le and les. You can see it over here. Le escribí la carta, or les sirvió los sándwiches. It would be something like le, la, or les, los. Now we said that that is not possible. That is why we are using se over here. Okay? Okay, so last thing, like I was saying, Last thing I want to say is that they can have several placements. Okay, I'm telling you the traditional placement that you're going to see. Um, both of them together before my conjugated verb, just like I said. But you can also see it at the end of the verb, okay? In some situations. Now, I do not want you to feel overwhelmed. I do not want you to see that I will never understand how to, you know, I will never understand how to use this and give up. Just know that you don't have to memorize everything. Like I always say, just be aware that this can happen. You will probably see it in VHL Central, and I don't want you to be, taken off guard. But you don't have to use it right away because you're just adjusting to using these two double object pronouns together. Just know that this is also an option to use it at the end. Okay. All right, so that is one of the last things, but actually I saw one more thing that I want to mention. And if, like I said, the double object pronouns, or actually either one, objeto directo or objeto indirecto, are used to replace whatever we have already mentioned, right? Now, what if we want to make a point? What if we want to emphasize my actions or the recipient? Like I gave it to her, or something like, yeah, I am angry because she didn't give it to them. Just imagine you send them a gift to your nephew and your niece and they never received it, and you want to emphasize, right? You want to emphasize who didn't give it to them, or the fact that they didn't receive the action. We do this all the time as well. We can do it with our tone, or we can also do it with the structure we use. Okay, in this case, you can still use of the pronouns, just like you can see over here, but they are already, they are also using the indirect object at the end. Okay, and why? For the reason that we want to either clarify or emphasize the item, or yeah, the information. We want to make a point. So for example, in here we're talking about the hat. What happened to the hat? Let's look. El sombrero, Carlos se lo vendió a ella. So a little bit like gossipy, right? Carlos se lo vendió a ella. Like you're making a point. Like he could have sold it, but he sold it to her. Okay. Now, if we stop over here, we stop over here, it is totally understandable. Carlos se lo vendió. She sold it to her. Now, we do want to emphasize and we do want to clarify. That is why we also add a ella. Another example, las verduras. Las verduras, ellos se los compran a usted. So if we stop over here, it will be totally understandable, but we want to clarify and we want to emphasize, and that's why we also add the objeto indirecto besides doing it with the pronoun. We also do it with the actual noun over here. Okay, so just like I said, I do not want you to feel overwhelmed. I do not want you to memorize everything and master it in one class, but I do want you to take notes. Um, I do want you to ask questions. I do want you to follow all of these topics that we are discussing, and certainly to ask questions if you have any. Okay, if you're struggling, make sure that you ask me, send me an email. make an appointment to meet with me, or we can at some point have a group study session, whatever you decide. But just make sure to, you know, to take the advantage of using the resources we have, and also to take care of your grade, okay? So I will see you soon. I will see you next week. I apologize once again if there's any inconvenience, but just know that I am available for you if you have any questions, okay? Have a great week, you guys. This was the point, the grammatical point 8.2, 8.2. We are talking about la comida, and in this particular topic, we were talking about double object pronouns.